postnatal behavior in the relationship between the mother goat and the kid are behaviors that begin immediately after birth. Maternal bonding begins with birth and ends with the weaning period. The new mother will usually turn immediately to their young after labor and begin licking their kid around the head and face. Healthy kids will already be sneezing fluid out of their nostrils, and their heads will be bobbling unsteadily on their necks at this stage. The doe will then proceed to clean off the kid as much as she chooses. This tasting and smelling of her kid is a very intimate way the females will bond with their young, and it will also help the young recognize their parents' scent. These healthy youngsters will attempt to stand and nurse very soon right after birth. After crashing into the wall, sprawling their head first into the bedding several times, most youngsters manage to maintain an uneasy alliance with gravity. Once they get their footing, they will search for something to suck on, instinctually, but not exactly sure what to suck for. They first try out their mother's knees, then their chest, then the stomach, and then the hocks, before finally discovering the udder. But even then, it will take a while to find the correct spot on the udder. Some people suggest that the does will not encourage their youngsters to nurse. I dispute this claim. Observations show by licking the backside of the young, the mothers do stimulate the sucking reflex of the youngsters and encourages the young goat to go towards the udder. Socialization. Goats are animals with herd instincts. Their relationships with other individuals within the herd leads to the formation of a hierarchical structure. This condition, in which we will call a social hierarchy, allows them to live together. Factors such as temperament, live weight, and the presence of horns play an influential role in the social hierarchy amongst the goats. Especially the presence of horns has a significant place in determining the individual's place within the herd. Animals that are placed high in the hierarchy fully exhibit grazing, resting, mating, and general active behavior. This can be seen during feeding or play. In the case of smell, goats are browsers and highly selective grazers. Therefore, goats have a keen sense of smell, which aids them in diet selection. To test this, feed that visually look the same but smelled slightly different were placed out in front of them. The familiar feed was picked out of the supply source from the goats. The goats will also not eat moldy food or musty feed, and generally avoid poisonous plants unless if they are wilted, and then that would seem more palatable. Goats are known all over the world for their love of climbing atop higher surfaces. It is incredible how they manage to balance themselves even in the steepest cliffs. While it seems impossible to us, for them, they do it with such ease. These baby goats have a long way to go. However, they're off to a great start. This video shows Rose having fun and finding her balance and testing her boundaries. Deciding to jump or not is watching her understand visual depth perception. Interestingly enough, a study was found that the cells in the mitochondria, the energy-producing organelles of the cell, converted more oxygen into energy, which is carried to the muscles during the climbing and jumping actions. Hearing. Goats are very sensitive to a range of sound, from high-pitched squeals from kids to low-pitched snorts or foot stomping on the ground. They have an ability to move their ears to locate sources of sound. This was noted from watching different sounds during each interaction. An unfamiliar sound produced a flight or fight response, such as car horns or loud bangs, while more familiar sounds to them were unmarked, such as cows calling, dog barks, and so on and so forth. Goats have economical significance. Goats are one of the most important farm animals which can consume many foods that are hard to digest, converting them into animal production. Furthermore, goat is also an indispensable source of income with its ability to adapt to highly varied geographical regions and climate conditions. Knowledge and interpretation of animal behavior will also enable a rise in yield levels. The increasing number of studies on the behavior of goats and relaying the information to farmers will be rendered more profitable and attractive in goat breeding. Instinctual, positive reinforcement, and appeasing behavior. These kids, as young mammals, have the opportunity of sucking from their mothers. They perform this rewarding and appeasing behavior, particularly following behavioral disturbances. This suggests that this action is not only nutritional, but is rewarding, and it also serves as a comforting component. Daily feed ingestion activities in goats comprise 1/3 of all their activities. Although goats can ingest feed more rapidly than sheep, Their grazing period, however, takes longer. The reason for this is because they are excessively selective and mobile while grazing. Since the front incisors of goats have a higher outward inclination, they can gnaw tree barks and trunks. They detach grass with the aid of their tongues and front incisors, and then complete their grazing behavior by shredding them in between their teeth. Due to the risk of predation and the harshness of their natural environment, this has molded goats into becoming social animals who depend on their companions for safety and relay of information. This inevitably leads to the competition for resources, as they will all want to benefit from the feed, mates, and shelter that they find. Survival is not severed by injuring family members or potential mates, so hierarchy and ritual fighting have evolved to settle disputes and to reduce fighting. The development of dominance is enhanced by crowding and the use of small feeding areas, as the increased competition for the same food and space exerts an organizational pressure. As seen here, these goats play king of the mountain, where the kid will establish a dominance order. Newcomers to the herd will have to find their own level and establish themselves within the herd, with the result of increased fighting for a short duration of time. The solid chocolate brown is a young buck named Axel, and his twin sister is Rose. The siblings always stick together in play, resting, and feeding. The other two twins are both does and are smaller in comparison. Jules is the lighter of the two, her sister is Jazz. The dominance in this herd absolutely remains with the young buck kid, but he allows his sister to take the mountain this time.
Boer goats are characterized by their distinctively large white bodies and rustic brown heads. They have short coats, horns, and large floppy ears. Some Boer goats may be completely brown or white in color. The name Boer goat is derived from the Dutch word boer, meaning farmer. Their breed of domesticated goats originated from South Africa as hergoats. They are mainly raised for their meat or as show quality goats. The Boer goats are generally liking human attention and spend their day grazing. They do tend to live in herds, and the males are always larger than the females and can weigh anywhere in between 150 to 350 pounds. The average lifespan of a Boer goat is anywhere between 12 to 15 years.
Goats don't have their own language, but they do seem to be able to pick up accents from one another. Scientists found in one study that of calls made by young goats. This I dispute due to notable differences between each goat call. Watch when one doe calls her kid to eat and the others do not move, but when their respective mother calls, they jump at once. Therefore, I do see a notable difference in each call and language that is unique to that particular family. This validates claims that some researchers say their results could have had implications of our understanding of the evolution of vocal learning, or as known in humans, speech. The ability to learn a range of sounds and to modify them according to their environment was thought to be reserved for a handful of animals, including birds, whales, dolphins, bats, elephants, and in the most extreme example, humans. The goat call reveals that these animals are capable of a rudimentary form of vocal learning, and they hint that similar abilities may have gone undetected elsewhere.
Boer goats were selected for meat rather than milk production due to selective breeding and improvement to the breed. The Boer goat has a fast growth rate and excellent carcass bones, making it one of the most popular breeds of meat goats around the world. Boer goats have a high resistance to disease and adapt well to hot and dry semi-desert-like conditions. Boer goats are also mild-tempered, easy to raise, and are very affectionate. They are contagious, so pass it on.